I have owned Mira for 19 years. She was foaled on my property on a morning in early April, when the ground was still cold enough to see your breath. And she came into the world the same way she has done everything since. Unhurried, unimpressed, and faintly put out by the inconvenience of it all. She is a Clydesdale, 17 hands, coat the color of dark river mud, 4 white stockings, and a blaze on her nose that runs slightly left of center, which my wife always said gave her an expression of permanent mild skepticism. My wife was right about most things. She was right about that. When the resettlement offer came through, land allotment on Vethera IV, the Keth Compact's new agricultural concession belt, I was 68 years old. I had 40 acres of wheat going nowhere, and I had nothing left on earth worth waiting for. I signed the paperwork. I arranged passage. I loaded Mira into the CNUM transport unit the agricultural liaison had approved, double-checked her feed allocation, and boarded the Keth transit vessel at Port Meridian on a Tuesday. The trouble started at Keth 7 station. Keth 7 is a processing hub. Every resettlement migrant passes through it. Customs, quarantine certification, biometric registry. 16 separate checkpoints administered by a compact species called the Vethoron, who are approximately 4 feet tall, have 3 sets of arms, and take their administrative procedures with a seriousness that I have not encountered since my last interaction with the County Land Assessor's Office, which was itself a fairly grim experience. The Vethoran officer at Checkpoint 1 reviewed my documentation, reviewed Mira's documentation, reviewed the agricultural liaison's authorization, and then set all of it down on the counter with the deliberate care of a man about to deliver news he has practiced delivering. The organism, he said, in serviceable standard, must be held in the Level 7 quarantine pen for 72 hours pending compact bioscan verification. I explained that I understood quarantine protocol, that I had in fact completed the pre-clearance bioscan on Earth, and that the paperwork in front of him reflected this. He explained that the pre-clearance bioscan covered me, and that the secondary organism, he kept calling her the secondary organism, required independent processing upon arrival at a compact transit facility as per Regulation 14C of the Keth Biosafety Charter, subsection 11. I asked how far the Level 7 quarantine pen was from the migrant processing hall. He said approximately 400 meters, 3 secured bulkheads. I said I understood, that I would accompany Mira to the pen, and that once she was settled, I would return for my own processing. He said I could not accompany the secondary organism. Quarantine zone was restricted to processing staff. I looked at the 3 sets of arms and the practiced expression and the counter between us, and I decided that this was not a hill worth dying on. Mira had been loaded and unloaded across 3 planetary transfer stations without incident. She knew the routine. She would stand in the pen, eat whatever they gave her, regard the Vethoron staff with the same flat equanimity she reserved for county assessors and thunderstorms, and wait. I kissed her on the blaze, slightly left of center, and told her I would be back in 3 days. She exhaled slowly through her nose and looked at me the way she always looks at me when I have said something she considers only partially credible. I went to the migrant processing hall. Processing Hall C is large and bright and smells of recycled air and the particular antiseptic the Keth Compact uses on their floor tiles, which is aggressively floral in a way that suggests nobody involved has ever encountered an actual flower. I was assigned a seat, given a numbered chit, and informed my full biometric registry would take approximately 4 hours. I was on my second cup of the processing hall's coffee substitute, which was brown and warm and otherwise without merit, when the noise started. I want to be precise about this, because I have given the account twice now, once to the station commander, and once to the Compact's Transit Authority liaison, and in both cases I have been very careful not to overstate what I witnessed. What I heard first was an alarm, then a second alarm, lower toned, which I later learned indicated a sealed bulkhead being opened from the wrong side. Then a third. The Vethoron staff in the processing hall moved toward their stations with the focused agitation of people who are looking at their instruments, and, not quite believing them, one of them said something in their own language. A second one answered. Third picked up a communication device and began speaking into it very quickly. 4 minutes and some seconds after the first alarm, the main entry doors of Processing Hall C opened. Mira walked in. She was not running. She was not alarmed. Ears were forward, and her tail was doing its customary slow sweep. The one that means she has finished whatever she was doing and has decided something else requires her attention. She crossed the processing hall floor at a walk. She navigated between the waiting migrants, a dozen species, several of whom pressed themselves against the walls, with expressions that suggested they had revised certain assumptions about Earth agriculture. She stopped beside my chair. She put her nose against my shoulder. I put my hand on her neck. She exhaled. I drank the rest of my coffee substitute. The processing hall was extremely quiet for a long moment. Then, one of the Vethoran staff members began speaking into his communication device again. I cannot say what he reported, because he said it in his own language, at some speed. But his third set of arms was doing something I had not previously seen Vethoran arms do, which was trembling. Station Commander Vrethaol arrived 22 minutes later. She was Keth Clade, is a different species from the Veth-Oron. Taller, gray-plated, with a composure that read as genuine rather than practiced. She looked at Mira for a long time. Then she looked at me. I told her I was sorry about the doors. I said that Mira didn't care for being separated. The commander asked me to clarify the extent of Mira's combat capability classification. I told her Mira was a draft horse, bred for field work. She could pull approximately 8,000 kilograms on a good surface, had once dragged a combine harvester out of a ditch in wet clay, and could stand still for 7 hours without complaint, which made her more reliable than most of the farmhands I had employed over the years. There was a pause. The commander looked again at the incident report on the device in her hand. I could see, from the angle, that it contained photographs of Level 7's 3 bulkhead doors. I did not ask about the photographs. She asked about the processing staff officer who had been assigned to the quarantine pen. I said I imagined they were fine. Said Mira had never harmed anyone who left her alone. The commander considered this for a moment. Then she asked where the staff were currently. Said I didn't know specifically, but that they would turn up. They found 2 of them in a storage room on Level 6, is 1 floor below Level 7, which does raise certain structural questions I am not qualified to address. The third was located in a maintenance corridor adjacent to the commissary. All 3 were unharmed, and from what I was told, disinclined to file formal accounts of what had occurred. The commander waived my remaining biometric appointments and processed my resettlement clearance personally. Mira was classified in the Formal Transit Authority record as a non-combatant escort organism operating within sanctioned accompaniment parameters. This classification did not exist in the Compact's registry prior to that afternoon. It was created at the commander's discretion, using authority I suspect she improvised somewhat on the spot. We were cleared for transit to Vethara Afi on the next available departure. It was 6 hours later. No quarantine delay, no hold. I walked Mira back to her transport unit and settled her in with a full hay net and the good oats I'd been saving. She looked at the hay. She looked at the oats. She looked at me with the expression that has, over 19 years, communicated a very insistent message, which is that she is tolerating all of this, and that I should not mistake her tolerance for approval. I told her she was a good girl. She ate the oats. The Keth Compact amended Regulation 14C subsection 11, approximately 3 weeks after our arrival at Vethara Vaforf. The amendment reads in its operative part that pre-clearance quarantine exemptions may be extended to secondary organisms at the discretion of the receiving station commander, where, quote, the organisms demonstrates an established accompaniment bond with the migrant party. Nobody in the amendment's drafting committee specified what exactly had prompted the revision. Some things do not require documentation. Mira is standing in the south paddock as I write this. The Vethara 4th morning is warm and smells like a planet that has not yet decided what it wants to be. Something old under it, something possible in the air. She is eating the native grass which she approached for the first week with the same mild skepticism she brings to everything new and has since decided is acceptable. She is not impressed. She is never impressed, but she is here, same as always. 17 hands, 4 white stockings, blaze on her nose slightly left of center, found.